Good morning, church. So when I volunteered to kind of tell a story about looking back, I thought, well, where do I start? There's so many stories. I actually, doesn't seem like it's been that long, but I've actually been at Beth-El for 14 years. I started attending 2 weeks after we moved into this new building. So people talk about, the old church, and there wasn't much space, and I'm like, I don't remember the old church. I think I was there once when I visited Colorado Springs right before I moved. I visited, and Jeanette and Jerry took me to the old church, but I don't really remember it. But when I came to Beth-El 14 years ago, I remember it being a vibrant, welcoming community that it still is today. Unfortunately, we can't be together, but I still see that community. There was always activities to be involved in, such things as, there was choir and harvest festival around Halloween. There was stuff to do with MCC. There were classes that were, for different interest groups and things like that. There were lots of things that also happened over the last 14 years that weren't here when I started. We were able to start hosting Family Promise here in our church, and not just help Ascension Lutheran, but actually have the families here at Beth-El. I was helped a lot of this happen, but we started a young adult program where we focused on young adults who maybe had started coming to Beth-El or had gone off to college and come back, or were doing college around here. Another thing that started was Service Adventure Unit. That started 10 years ago. It doesn't seem like it just started, but it has been 10 years. So there's been a lot of us focusing on community and focusing on not just the outside community, but community within our church. One of the things I remember is in the very beginning, I used to sing in choir, and we had a choir Christmas party, and just all the different kinds of people. And it was over at Carla Wilder's house, and just the different amounts of people that were there from different parts of the community, different age groups and things like that. And it was a lot of fun, and I loved doing that. Another thing that we did was going Christmas caroling around the community, to different people's houses and retirement communities, and just how much fun we'd, get in different cars and drive to a place, and then we'd all get out and be cold and sing, and then we would, go to another house, and then we'd all convene at someone's house to have hot chocolate and stuff like that. So just those community aspects of people from different walks of life, different, I don't know how you say it. They weren't all coming up from the Mennonite background, which I grew up in a community where everyone was a Mennonite. And so getting together with and being able to learn from people who didn't grow up Mennonite, but came to the Mennonite faith, and just how they got to their story of faith and getting to God was just is still one of my favorite things about Beth-El, is that we're not just, I don't know how, cultural Mennonites. We're not all Mennonites from when we were born and stuff like that. So that's one of my favorite things about Beth-El. And so as we turn into looking forward, I hope that we can keep that sense of community and learning from each other about our faith stories and things like that, and different activities here at Beth-El.
Thanks, Michelle. As I said, we're going to have 4 different people from the leadership team sharing today. I'm Bryan Miller, and I've been here a long time. I'm not going to say when, but I was in the 1st grade when my family, as refugees from the East, came here. They were fleeing from that culture. And they came to the West because to them, it was a place of freedom. It was a place where more people of more socioeconomic backgrounds, more religious backgrounds could come together and form a community. And to me, I want to look at a couple core values that I've seen at Beth-El. I'm not going to tell stories because there's a lot of stories, like Michelle said. I'm not going to talk about the time I threw a baseball through the church window. I was forgiven because that's what we do, but it did leave a mark. The couple of central values that I saw Beth-El have was one that Michelle already touched on, which is stretching our zone of comfort. And that's something that my family sought. They wanted to stretch their zone of comfort. And they came here to a community that was not steeped in a certain social background. It was a community where Christians could come in from things that some people thought were very different, very wrong places. I'm not going to list those, but I mean, we've had people from all different walks of life. And even though, especially as Anabaptists, as a pacifist theological community, we openly accepted military, active military in our congregation since way back in the 70s. And that was one of the reasons that Beth-El was first formed, because we didn't make people state a law or a creed that they had to recite and follow. That can be hard, to be inclusive like that, to be the big tent. But it makes a dynamic community. And to me, Beth-El has always stretched the zone of comfort for a lot of different people and kept that dynamicism alive and vibrant. And that's why I don't think of the old church on Yuma or the one I grew up in or the one that was here 5 years ago. Because to me, it's always the new Beth-El. It's always a vibrant, changing group. There are faces here that weren't here 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Wow, thank you for coming. I mean, it makes us better individuals when we can be open to perspectives, open to theological discussions, open to questions that can be scary, that can feel like it's moving us off the center. That's Jordan's job, to keep us on that center. That's our jobs as leadership team, to identify and keep us on that center. But that dynamicism is exciting. It's what keeps it fresh for me. One of the other core values that I always saw in Beth-El that I have greatly benefited from is the emphasis on the priesthood of believers. You may have remembered back when we were doing our Anabaptist Essentials study last summer, that was one of the core tenets, was that each of us as believers in this Beth-El community are priests and priestesses. Each of us have a responsibility to share our God-given gifts in ministry and to grow them by discipling each other and giving each other opportunities. To me, that was central to Beth-El. That was central to me growing up. I had so many opportunities in this church, and I've seen that in our youth programs throughout the history of Beth-El. We encourage not only for them to be off in Sunday school and to learn the Gospels and to learn what Jesus has for their lives, but to come up here and talk about it, to come up here and share in our worship, to share in our music program. I sometimes say it's ROI for those of you in business. It's risk, I just forgot what it meant. Return on investment. Sorry. You're taking a risk and you expect a return on that investment. Well, we actually do that here at Beth-El. We take the risk of allowing each one of us to be priests and to minister up here on stage, in Sunday school, with our children. We ask you to do that. And to me, that allows people to grow their gifts. I've seen so many young people get up here and learn their lines for the dramas, learn their lines for the supper clubs, and belt out something that they would never, ever, ever do, but they've learned that tool of public speaking. And I'll bet you we don't know the results of all those opportunities I know the results in my life. The opportunities Beth-El has had for me to get up here since I was 9 years old and play the sax very, very badly have meant a lot to me. It's made me grow. It's made me grow professionally. It's made me grow theologically, personally, spiritually. Those opportunities are invaluable. We are a priesthood of believers. We give opportunities. Sometimes that risk makes it a little uncomfortable, but most of the time, it's such a gift to each one of us. Thank you.